Special thanks to Synergy Entertainment for sponsoring today's episode of Movie Time with Crash. You know, cowboys and westerns are certainly a product of their time. And they certainly have a very vintage sort of charm to them. You know, and there really is multiple facets and reasons as to why you really don't see a lot of modern day westerns and cowboy flicks nowadays is because, well, part of the reason, and not to sort of pull the curtain from under the rug a little bit, but it's because a lot of the subject themes and materials and the thematic tones and stories that could and can be told about cowboys and westerns if we're doing a true western, a true cowboy film, kind of involves talking about certain subject material in a way that a lot of advertisers, a lot of companies, a lot of brands, a lot of even studios nowadays aren't necessarily super comfortable with talking about. You can't, unfortunately, it's one of those things where you can't really cherry pick. You could try, but you certainly can't. And, well, it's interesting because I didn't even know that Kevin Costner was that big of a cowboy fan, right? Like a Western fan. But, like, I guess he is. So, and, I heard about the new Horizon film, Horizon American Saga, but I didn't think too much of it at first. I was kind of thinking, like, oh, well, cowboys and westerns aren't really my thing. There's been, like, maybe one or two I've watched in the past, but even those have been, like, parody comedy films. Like, like Trailblazer films, or like A Million Ways to Die in the West, or, Blazing Saddles, stuff like that. So nothing that's never really been like necessarily outlandish, but stuff that's been necessary to poke fun of the genre and why it's a product of its time. But then Synergy came along and said, "Hey, we're hosting a big old party for the film. We're going to have like cowboy hats, we're going to have movie trivia, we're going to have snacks, giveaways. We'd really like for you to be a part of it." So I was like, well, I mean, I have been wanting to see the film, but I wasn't sure if I was going to be as invested in it or not. And before we continue, I actually gotta make sure got my proper accessory to go with this review. There we go, that's better. Got my cowboy hat still. So, here's the thing about the movie, right? Is in order for something like this to work, you have to have a story that's both engaging but also fun and honest. It's truthful, but it's also gripping. It's also filled with action and suspense and, drama and, you know, romance and all these different things, right? But, like, really, the problem with this film is this: it kind of goes the Batman route, the Avatar route, even dare I say the Harry Potter route. It goes in chapters. So it's chapter 1 and chapter 2. Chapter 1 is a 3-hour movie. And you're going to hear this a lot. Um with movie reviews coming up from me. But Crash don't do 3 hour movies. My ADHD and my brain, my attention span, and my bladder cannot do 3 hour movies. I have to take breaks. I have to use the restroom. I have to, like, move around a little bit and come back. Now, I will say this, the actual event itself that Synergy hosted, 10 out of 10. Super fun. I wound up getting some good food. I wound up playing some movie trivia. I wound up winning some free movie tickets. I wound up getting a really cool kick ass Bluetooth speaker as a gift. Like, solid job. Synergy Entertainment definitely put on a event and a show. But the movie itself, considering this was a 3 hour, like, setup into, like, part two, already docks a point. The fact that this was already 3 hours docks a point. But despite that, is it a good Western? Yeah, it's a solid Western. It's not the greatest in the world, but I will say that Kevin Costner is always good to see on screen, and he actually did a fantastic job. I will say that the drama and the story itself between the main cast and all the different characters was actually engaging, and I wanted to see and, hear and find out what was going on. I will say that all the different side stories that were going on in chapter 1 didn't feel like it was too, like, distracting from the overall story of what's happening in the world. I will say that, a lot of the actors and actresses in the film did a fantastic performance. A lot of the sounds and the music really did capture that feel of being in an old American tale Western style era, especially again considering this is a much older time period. And again, we're going to address the elephant in the room. Yes, this movie does contain themes of subject matters involving, Indian history and Indian territories and, things of different cultures and different races and different native sort of tones. So you have to understand that this going into this movie is going to kind of sort of talk about that. But for how they handle it, not bad. Still, like, they still play a little safe, but it's not bad. So, now, this is also going to be a slightly extended episode, so bear with me because this is going to be longer than about 10 minutes. But also, to be fair, too, the movie was 3 hours long. Kind of hard to condense my thoughts in under 10 minutes for a 3 hour film. I really did like how a lot of the central plots. Because here's the thing, this movie has at least, like, probably four, possibly five different stories going on at once. That, if you're not keeping track, yes, is kind of a problem. But if you are keeping track, then good for you, because you are rewarded with a lot of character depth, drama, and development for what's going on in each of these individual stories. And weirdly enough, all of them actually don't connect to one another. So that's kind of the reason why I actually like this film a little more, is because the way they treat this film is less of a, hey, here's one big story plot narrative and all these different stories that somehow connect to it. It's more of an old school anthology where it's like, here's a bunch of different, like, stories and plot beats and elements, and what you're seeing unfold is like 4 or 5 different stories happening at once, kind of around the same, like, days or a couple days, even the same week. But, like, you're not seeing them all happen right next to each other. You're seeing them all kind of happen in a way that's like, okay, this character knows this character, and this happened to this character. So character A goes to character B to go help character B, but turns out, they're related to character C, and character B is mad that they know character C, so they go and kill character C. And it's a lot of very beat for beat sort of like Western tropes that are in, these older films. And again, Kevin Costner is also a director in this film as well, too. There are also a lot of big power play names in this film. And again, since they're doing this in sort of a chapter 1, chapter 2 style, that means that they have more time to flesh out all of these stories. Now, I will also say this as well, too. This is also a film that definitely demands your attention because this film also is, at the time of this recording, of this review, is actually scheduled to have 2 more chapters to it. A chapter 2 and then a chapter 3. So meaning that this whole thing, right? If you combined all 3 chapters, could potentially be 9 hours long. Chapter 1 is just so that you have an understanding of the different layers and different types of storytelling that's going on. And also keep in mind, too, that a lot of the settings are also sort of in that pre-expansion era of the Civil War. So, again, time period does make a difference. Now, the other thing, too, is that you got to remember, most audiences nowadays are not used to having a film that isn't always going to be, in the day and era of CGI and action and explosions and, animation and AI and, big robotic effects and stuff like that, right? And lots of dazzling colors. This is a film that definitely takes the idea of let the dialogue and the actors carry this film. Okay. And it does that. But it drags. And I mean it drags hard. And this is where the negative comes in. I literally went to go use the restroom and get snacks. Again, thanks to my partnership with Synergy Entertainment, I was able to go treat myself to maybe a Southwest salad, maybe some mozzarella bites, a nice little snack treat. Maybe even a nice Coke Zero, something, right? I was able to do that, use the restroom, and even play a quick arcade game or two twice. Come back into the theater to, actually see the film and continue watching the film. Didn't miss a beat. Didn't miss a story beat. So it wants you to pay attention, but it wants you to pay attention not necessarily to the environment or to the theme of the movie, but rather what's going on around the world of what it is. And also, I mean, this isn't really a spoiler, so keep that in mind, but like, at the end of the day, since this is a Western film, you obviously expect, people to die, people to get shot, people to get, hung or blown up or whatever. And with that comes the idea that, people are going to get killed in this film. And as such, people are going to want revenge in this film. So, the idea of making this a real true Western, down to the idea of, like, revenge and plot points and stuff like that, is fine. You know, that's totally fine. But I was also kind of hoping that this film wouldn't just do, like, the standard thing of westerns and cowboy flicks. I was hoping it would bring sort of a new take and a new idea to the concept of a cowboy film, a western film. And it presents a lot of the themes in a very gritty but very, like, just as serious tone and ambiance, but it does it in a way that's like, it's not there to fuel the plot of the story or to move things along. It's more there to put pressure and pump the gas a little bit on the drama that's unfolding. So there's also a lot too of, as you'll probably see, some interesting reviews and mixed thoughts on chapter 1 that are definitely floating along online. And some of them I agree with. Some of them are a little eh. But again, what do you expect? This is supposed to be a Western cowboy film that takes place during the pre-expansion era of Civil War, and it's going to again talk about a lot of themes and cultures and things that most audiences nowadays, even in 2020 freaking 4, aren't able to have a proper conversation on. So, yeah. But despite that, the drama is good. The quote unquote action, which there really isn't much, except for, like, oh, woo, minor spoiler, wow, oh, so scary. But, like, obviously, there's this one character that you think is a main important plot character to one of the stories, but they wound up dying. But again, it's the West. Of course, they're gonna do the, you know, I wouldn't do that if I were you, partner. I wouldn't do that if I were you, partner. Or I wouldn't do that if I were you, partner. No, I wouldn't do that if I were you, partner. Someone pulls a gun with their foot. I wouldn't do that if I were you. No, but, like, there's a lot of that, and that's, you have to be in it for the drama. At the end of the day, you, there's some intense scenes with, like, cities and villages being on fire. Obviously, certain, Western cultures back then being at war with each other. Certain themes with territories and land disputes, which that is actually one of the plot points of one of the stories, is involving, like, land disputes between, natives and other cultures versus, the American West. So you're in it for the drama, the dialogue, and the suspense. You're not in it necessarily quite yet for the action. But to also be fair, this film has a chance to maybe do something different. Maybe tell an original concept. Maybe spin the Western sort of tone and cowboy tone and drama on its head in chapter 2 and chapter 3. When you talk a lot, you gotta drink water. And actually, yes, even at one point, there is some mentions about resources as well too. So basically, if you love playing actual Western games, like Western and like cowboy video games, like say Red Dead Redemption, and want sort of a movie experience of that, then that's what Horizon is. I would pretty much narrow it down to, hey, don't feel like playing Red Dead Redemption, but you still want that really good storytelling that Red Dead Redemption has, and that sort of feel of actually traveling and going around across the West and across the American Trail, and you still want that, gritting, teeth biting drama, then go watch Horizon. That's, yeah, that's what this is. Not a bad film for chapter one. But here's the other issue I have, too. Yes, I can give comments. Yes, I can give notes. Yes, I can tell you the parts I like about chapter one and the parts I don't like about chapter one. So, which, by the way, if you want a summary, good drama, good acting, good musical score, and honestly, the dialogue and the drama itself, as well as the actors and actresses, kept me entertained. But it's a 3 hour film. It definitely has a problem where the pacing is off. It drags hard in certain parts. And on top of that, you could literally go up, use the restroom, get a snack, and you wouldn't miss an important plot point. Because again, Chapter 1 treats this as more of an anthology, a multitude of stories, rather than one central story. I forgot to do part 5, but yeah. Point is, solid film, but I can't properly give it like is it worth watching or not at the end of this review. Because in order to get the full experience, we now have to wait for chapter 2 and chapter 3. Am I gonna see chapter 2 and chapter 3? Yeah, sure, maybe. I mean, I watched chapter 1, so I'm clearly in for this now. I mean, if, in the future, if I still have my partnership with Synergy, or say like I managed to get a movie ticket, or if I'm off work that day or something, or have time off, then yeah, maybe I'll go see part 2. Not a problem. Maybe I'll go see part 3. But is this also a film that would be best viewing it at home? Say with like a viewing party with friends and like some popcorn, snacks. Absolutely. I'm going to say this about every single film that's like 3 hours long. I'm going to say this when I eventually review Avatar, the second one. I'm going to say this when I eventually talk about The Batman. And I'm going to say this with all the other 3 hour plus films. But if you want that experience, that true sort of lip biting, teeth gritting Western experience, then go see it in the theater. Obviously, it's not in theaters anymore right now, but you know, it's worth a watch. It's it's solid. It's got some bumps. It's got some issues, and the trail is not exactly smooth. All the way. It bumps into a few cacti and bumps into a few rocky roads, and you know, you're gonna get one person that at least gets dysentery no matter what. Oh man. But terrible joke aside, the film itself is not bad. And as such, it's worth a watch. And huge shout out to the amazing people at Synergy Entertainment and Synergy Cinemas. If it wasn't for you guys, well, I definitely would have been more inclined to watch this at home. But you guys put on a hell of an amazing experience. Cool cowboy hat, some free movie tickets I won from trivia. I got a cool Bluetooth speaker as well too that I frequently use. And honestly, for what it was pretty fun. So, that about does it for this sort of extended review, if you will. So, I definitely went past 10 minutes. But again, if the movie's going to be 3 hours long, there's a lot more to talk about beyond just 10 minutes. Oh, one thing I also want to mention too, before I forget as well. Well, two things. One, if you want to see movie reviews early, before everyone else, you should consider checking out the Patreon. We'll have movie time with Crash episodes up early before the general public. For the most part. There's some that are obviously going to be directly straight to YouTube and to other socials first, but still, for the most part. And two, one more bonus note about the film. If you're the type of person that's expecting, like, all this to be connected as to one, like, big shared universe type of thing, don't put your hopes up for that. This isn't going to be one of those, big chapter 2 and 3 things where like it does a Marvel and like it's all part of the Kevin Costner cinematic Western universe. Like that's no, the Yeehaw verse. It's not going to be part of anything like that. That's just not happening. So, but regardless, I had thought, for a setup, it wasn't bad. That about does it for me. I'll talk to y'all later.